Welcome to the Scott Townsend Show, brought to you by Dietzo Man Productions.
My next question is what made these experiences so valuable, but I feel like you guys did a good job at answering that, so I'm just going to skip it.
Okay.
So the next one is, have your own views of leadership changed over time?
You want me to go first? By the way, I kind of looked over Scott sent these questions before, and so I looked over them yesterday, but I didn't. I spent 2 minutes just reading through them, and I put it down, and I didn't want to look at it or think about it too much before the interview. Because I wanted to give you my reactions today. So that's kind of the approach I took with this. So have your own views of leadership changed over time? And mine is yes, 100%. I remember early on, way before I was leading teams, I remember people would talk about, leadership is, and it was so cliche and it just kind of like bugged me, but it's communication, communication, communication. And I thought that was kind of a corny cliche. And but leadership is, like I said earlier, I believe leadership is simply the ability to influence. That's what it is to me. Because you go into a company, and whatever company you have, and your company has a mission, and your job as a leader is to fulfill that company mission. And here are the resources you have. You have this much budget for advertising or putting up displays in the indoor garden area, and this much budget for the people spend in that area and all this kind of stuff. And so you have to take that spend that you're responsible for as a leader, and you have to return more value for that spend than the spend itself. So that means developing people. Of course, you have your own career ambitions as well. You want to get promoted and blah blah blah. But you have to return more value as a leader. The outputs have to exceed the inputs, or you won't be in a leadership position for very long. There's other reasons you could be out of a leadership position, but that's one. And so I think, in your ability to influence, I do believe that communication is that's how you create your ability to influence. It is about communication, is about understanding and being able to relate the mission of the company to the job that Liz has as an indoor patio person, garden person, and how her job relates specifically to accomplishing the big top level mission of the company she works for. And so being able to do that, whether in leadership or not, I think is very important. But for a leader, I think is paramount. And then I believe you have like a moral obligation to understand what your employees want out of their job, and try to help them accomplish that. It's about the mission, but it's also about building people, because people is how you accomplish the mission. And so my views on leadership with regard to how important that communication is very important. And along those lines, just one other thing. I'm a pretty analytical kind of guy. And so being that way, I think one of the ways that I've kind of changed is, especially, as you're relating to other people, is to be less analytical and kind of fact-based in your approach, and spend more time on the empathy side of things and dealing with people. Because I read a quote. This isn't mine, but I read it, and it really struck me as, yes, that's truth right there. And I can see the error of my ways, some of my interactions as a leader. But it was a statement that said something like this: emotional resonance is more compelling than fact. Emotional resonance is more important than fact. So you can be 100% right about some issue or what you're trying to accomplish with your team, but not have your team like follow because somebody else is making a different case, or you haven't made the emotional case for it. You haven't connected with them emotionally to kind of like seal the deal on what you're doing. And so I think my view of that has absolutely 100% changed over time. And I think you ignore that need for emotional resonance at your own peril as a leader. And so that would be my answer to this question. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, I think yeah, that's right. That's you can have the facts. Facts don't sell. Um, for example, you know, don't go in the water. Don't go swimming in the water because you might get, there's a shark out there. And if you just leave it at that, okay, you're going to forget that in the next 10 minutes. And then pretty soon someone throws a ball and it goes out in the water and you go out there splashing around, go get the ball and come back on the beach, and now everyone's kind of splashing around in the water and totally forgot about the fact is somebody did see something earlier this morning. Or you can tell the story of Jaws and there's no way you're getting in the water today or tomorrow. I mean, after Jaws came out, there was nobody wanted to get in the water, even in swimming pools. Everybody was freaked out of the deep end because it's just so scary. And so, yeah, telling a good story sells the fact. The facts themselves don't sell. But
yeah, and internal relationships, because let's say in the indoor garden center, let's say that your boss is number one. My biggest objective for you guys here on the team is the most important thing for us is to sell barbecue pits. And let's say that Kim is number one in barbecue pit sales. And let's say that there's somebody else, but Kim, I don't make this personal. Person A sells barbecue pits like nobody else, but they don't spend any time developing a relationship with their boss. And then you have person B who doesn't really enjoy selling barbecue pits. They're a vegetarian, and they don't, whatever. I'm just making this up. And they sell whatever patio furniture, whatever it is. But this person has a really good relationship with their boss. You can say that they're schmoozing or brown nosing or however you want to say it, but they're spending a lot of time, building a great relationship with their boss. And then the boss has to make a decision. Well, who gets the tickets to the Thunder game in Oklahoma City this coming weekend? Who gets the tickets? And the boss awards them to the person they have a great relationship with, rather than the person who is executing the number one thing that leader has told the team to execute. So that's an example of what that emotional resonance makes. When you get more than one person involved in an organization, you have politics.
yeah, but in that kind of isn't that kind of crappy? If you're selling grills like nobody's business, and yet Joe Blow over here, who's a
Yes, it's
licks
crappy. Yes, 100%.
spittle
It's
and
crappy.
bootlicker, and they get the tickets to the Thunder game.
Yep.
That sucks.
Really, really does. But it's I'm not saying whether that is right or wrong. I'm saying that's what it is. And I'm saying that's human nature.
Mhm.
And so along with, if you know that, it's not about being a bootlicker. It's about, look, if I execute my job perfectly here, but I don't spend any time developing a relationship with the people around me, then human nature is gonna point out their frailty, and I'm not going to get what I want, and somebody else is going to get what they want because they're just a 100% bootlicker.
Mhm.
And so you can't ignore that side. Emotional resonance, again, this is human nature. Is it right? No. And as a kind of left-brained person, you're going to say, well, that's ridiculous. I can't do that. I'm never going to do that. Blah. Okay, well, this is something I had to learn. You know,
Mhm.
um, that emotional resonance is more powerful or more compelling than just the fact, is just human nature. And if you ignore human nature, you can leave yourself kind of out of what you want and where you want to go just by not recognizing that fact. There's nothing wrong And it's just smart to build a good relationship with your boss and the people around you. And so I would say that's one thing that I would not neglect, as I execute the mission. It's not a moral issue, or the issue where you're sacrificing your belief system. It's just one of recognizing human nature, and you can have it either work for you or against you. Which one do you want?